Hey folks, it's Jim, it's Julie, it's episode 251 of Geeking Out. Yes, we're not even going to quit because we have no quit in us.
Exactly.
Man, I want to quit.
No quitting.
Okay.
No quitting. We can remember, the chains don't come off until we hit 500.
Oh, okay, so what if we do an episode every day for the next 249 days?
It would work. I don't know that I have the stamina for it.
I don't think I do either. Alright, so we'll just keep going for another few years, and we're going to start off this week's episode with Lazarus. Which I think we might need one of those Lazarus pits after.
After 500? Probably.
Yeah.
So, Lazarus number 1 starts out with 3 bullets to the chest and the death of an attractive young woman. Thankfully, the young woman...
So, thankfully she's dead. Alright, got it.
Yep.
Good.
Thankfully, the young woman named Forever, or Eve to her friends, is a Lazarus. Her job...
Gee, I wonder...
Her job is to fulfill the wishes of her family. And this is set in a universe where there are...
being shot.
Well, she just can't die. They killed her, but she didn't stay dead. She doesn't know how to stay dead, basically.
So she's like Robin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly like Robin. Maybe that's why I like this book so much.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
But does she go completely nutso?
No,
Okay.
she does not.
Oh.
So, this book is set in a world where there are a few powerful families who rule over everything. But they fight amongst each other.
As powerful families tend to do.
Yes. And I really enjoyed it. I haven't given you as much of a summary as I probably could have because I don't want to... My fear is always that I give away too much, but I'm intrigued and I really, really think I'm going to be picking up the number 2 because this is just a good book. It's something different that I'm not tired of. I haven't seen a lot of this before. I'm curious to see how they have made her a Lazarus and what they've done. And I want to learn more about the universe that this is set in.
Well, that's a good thing about Image lately. They've been doing a really good slate of number 1s.
Yeah, as long as they can keep their prints on time, then I'm in. I'm just afraid because it's Image, and Image has that...
very bad tendency of books being delayed.
You know what? Even if it was just the one book, it's still a really, really good book. And I really strongly recommend it. I enjoy the art. I really have no complaints. I will point out that this is rated M for mature, so you'll want to make sure the content is appropriate, not only for young ones, but for yourself. But I definitely think you should go check out Lazarus. Alright,
another book with some parental advisory involved.
Just
it's Dexter, number 1. And I should just note, this is not based off the TV show.
This is a long-anticipated miniseries.
Which is actually written by the original author of the books and takes place either after or during the books.
Oh, neat.
So, it's very interesting to me. I don't know too much history on the Dexter books, or TV series for that matter. I did watch some and read a bit of the book just to get in anticipation for this, so I enjoyed it, but let's go into a bit of the story first.
Yes.
So, Dexter finds himself in a sticky situation, his high school reunion.
Wait. Dexter, who deals with blood all day, finds himself in a sticky situation?
Yeah.
Nice.
Very fun, huh? So he's found himself at his high school reunion, where he meets an old bully of his.
Oh dear.
That he seemingly scared straight. By strapping him to a table and threatening to kill him. So, this guy, Steve Gonzalez, who seems to know just a bit too much about Dexter's dark side, comes into the picture, and we find out just what Dexter was like in high school.
Oh dear.
And just who Steve Gonzalez is. So, I like this. There's a lot of inner monologuing from Dexter, which if you know the show and
Yep.
the book, he does a lot. But it also seems that the author likes to throw in his own type little bit of monologuing as well, because there are a few points in the book where I'm confused and going, wait, is that Dexter saying it or is the author? Because he's doing it in the third person. So it's like, so Dexter's saying that Dexter will...
Interesting.
Yeah, so there is that, but I enjoyed it still. The art's not too terrible here. Dexter is, of course, going to have a different look, because it's the book Dexter, not the show Dexter.
Right.
So if you are a fan of Dexter, and you want to try out a little something different, and you don't know too much about the books, then this might be a really good jumping on point for the books.
Neat.
I still had a lot of fun with it, so if you're a fan of Dexter, check it out. It's a bloody good mess.
Alright, next up for me is The Superior Foes of Spider-Man #1. This book introduces us to Frank Myers, aka Boomerang.
Shouldn't it be the superiorly beaten foes of Spider-Man? Because they tend to always get beaten by Spider-Man.
We can suggest that they change the title.
I suppose.
So, Boomerang is the current leader of the Sinister Six.
What a terrible villain name.
Well, it's 5 now, now that Octavius has taken over Peter Parker's body.
Oh, spoilers.
If they don't know by now that that Parker is dead and Otto is Spider-Man.
Dead.
So, when Boomerang lands himself in jail, his sole mission is, of course, his freedom.
Of course.
But how will he motivate the other 4 members of his team to free him from jail?
A high school dance party.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing, but not quite.
No.
He's planned an elaborate heist from the inside. So, I liked this book. It was funny. It's Deadpool funny without the gore.
Which is good.
Yeah. So, I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for something that is light-hearted and something where your protagonists are going to be getting beat on and just trounced all of the time.
Because, well, they're villains.
Exactly. They're still villains. I don't care that they're the protagonists. They're still villains. They still lose. It's a really fun, light-hearted, easy-read kind of book.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it. I highly recommend it because it gives you a different look at some of the big Spider-Man villains. So guys, Superior Foes of Spider-Man, check it out.
Oh, and Marvel, give that dog in the #1 a series of its own.
For reals, I would love to have a comic of his.
Alright, so next up we have Satellite Sam, #1. And in this one, the star of a beloved daily TV serial, Satellite Sam, has been found dead.
Oh dear.
The police say he died of natural causes, but his son knows there was something more and must do something about it. That is, if he can sober up long enough to do so.
Oh dear.
Okay, so this is another #1 from Image, who, as I said before, is doing a very good slate of new #1s.
They have a really good lineup.
Yeah, and this is another one of them. This is a very dark, SimCity-ish noir story.
Okay.
And I actually really enjoyed it. It's got the right amount of darkness with the right amount of good amount of comedy. There's some really nice looking into how a TV show in the 50s worked.
Oh, neat. That's
So,
cool.
I like that, and I think probably the only problem people might have with it is that it's black and white. Because, well, people can be jerks and not get that books can work in black and white. And I like this one, and it works very well in black and white because it's a noir story.
Right.
And noir works, for me, better in black and white. So, if you're a fan of a really good noir murder mystery story, check this one out. I had a blast with it, and as always, it seems that Image is doing a really good job with their new #1s.
Sorry guys, I gotta show you. I got distracted by the back of this comic book because it's advertising for a new book coming out slated in October. It's called Pretty Deadly, but the cover image that they've given us here is just fascinating. So if you can't see it well enough here, I really highly recommend Googling it.
Don't worry, we will review it.
We'll review it coming up, but it looks absolutely fascinating, so you'll have to forgive me. Alright, next up this week is The Emerald City of Oz, number 1 of 5. And I forgot to look, but this is what, the 3rd or 4th?
I think it's almost the 5th.
Okay, so it's the 4th or maybe the 5th installment of Marvel doing the Emerald City
adaptations
Oz.
of the Oz stories by
the adaptations of the books, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is number 1 of 5, and in this one, Roquette the Red, King of the Gnomes, is irate about the loss of his magic belt to Dorothy and Ozma of Oz, and he's decreed that it's time to get it back.
As most villains will do.
Of course. And he's going to get it back in the only way that villains could possibly do. By ruining Oz and killing Ozma and taking it back in blood.
Of course.
Yes. Meanwhile, Aunt Em and Uncle Henry have grown poorer and poorer and not been unable to pay the mortgage on the farm and have lost the farm. So, they've made plans.
Those frequent tornadoes that take
Yep.
people away or just ruining them financially.
Ruining everything.
Yep.
So, they have set everything up to move to the city and take jobs, but they're heartbroken because Dorothy will have to take a job.
Yep.
That is, until Dorothy suggests that they move to Oz.
Of course, then the Aunt Em and Uncle Henry decide to put her in a mental institution, and we get returned to Oz.
Well, that's one
But darn, those Wheelers are scary.
But I really enjoyed this book. It was cute. The gnomes are hilarious.
As they were in the book.
I didn't feel as though I was missing anything. I've only ever watched The Wizard of Oz, and then I've done some stuff with Wicked, one of the offshoots based on the same content. But I really enjoyed this. I was surprised. I love the art style.
I've never really been a fan. I respect Scotty Young and everything. I've just never really been a fan of his style for Oz.
Oh, I love it.
The thing is, I grew up with Eric Schanauer, who writes this, and his books based in Oz. And when he writes and draws them, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm like, I'd really love to just see Eric Schanauer do another Oz book. That's all.
I'm not familiar with those at all.
No disrespect to Scotty, but I just want to see Eric Schanauer do one more Oz book one day.
Fair enough. I really love the sort of magical element that the long and thin arms and legs give to this book. And I just can't say enough good things about it. So, go out, check out the Emerald City of Oz, go back, ask your local comic shop retailer to find you the back issues or the trade paperbacks for these, because it's a great way to tell the story. It's a great way to come into reading the novels.
Yep, and it's also a great introduction to comics for kids.
Exactly. So, Emerald City of Oz.
Less a good introduction for kids to Oz is Grimm Fairy Tales Oz #1. And yes, we're kind of having an Oz week here. So, what happens in this one? Well, the Witches of Oz are looking for a lost weapon of power, the Viridian Scepter, which leads them to Kansas, the home of Dorothy Gale. So, yeah, this is much darker.
So
just
wait,
to say the least.
In this, has Dorothy been to Oz already? Or
No.
Oz? Oh, okay, so instead of Dorothy going to Oz, Oz comes to her.
Basically, yeah.
That's cool.
And Toto is no longer a little tiny dog. He is a giant wolf that comes from Oz.
Oh. Interesting.
That's why the witches have come to try and get the Viridian Scepter, because Toto took it with him from Oz.
That's cool, though.
Yeah. Well, that's about the only cool part in this whole book, sadly. As always, I can't really get into the writing on the Grimm Fairy Tales stuff. It's just... they're usually very good with their art. No exception here, it's not bad. It's not their greatest, but it's not their worst either. But the writing, as always, is subpar at best. And when you've got a world such as Oz that you can do pretty much anything with, and you focus on one thing instead of focusing on all the other things that you could do amazingly well, it kind of ruins the story. And I hate to say it, but this one bored me. And there was... we know the story of Oz. So if you're not gonna focus on the concept or change the concept, there's no real point to doing it. And this one is just, oh, well, let's make it Oz sexy. Which, for me, I don't like too much, and I can't really highly recommend it. I mean...
everybody knows my feeling on the superfluous use of breasts.
Yeah, and this one it's just all out of that. It's just, And I love the cover by J. Scott Campbell. It's great to see him doing stuff like this. I enjoy that, but really when you get into it, it's just another subpar, dark Oz. Let's just say that. And there's been so many of them.
I'm going to interrupt because I know somebody who's read a few Grimm Fairy Tales who has the opposite opinion that you do.
Yeah.
They did not enjoy the art, but they really, really enjoyed the story. So I would still recommend that you go out and check out
I mean, check it out.
Check out the Grimm Tales.
I'm wrong on occasion. I mean, let's give it a chance.
Exactly.
Number 2 will be out. Maybe they'll focus on something better.
Yeah, just give it a chance, because I definitely have known people who adored the storytelling, but weren't very fond of the hypersexualization.
Yeah, and sometimes that goes a little bit overboard.
That was the only complaint, was the hypersexualization. They enjoyed the rest of the art style.
Yeah.
It was just too much.
Yeah, but me, myself, until I can maybe read some more, I can't really recommend it. So unless you're a gigantic Oz fan that just has to have everything that has the word Oz on it, then I can't recommend it.
Alright, last up for me this week is Larfleeze, number 1.
You've been waiting a couple weeks to do this.
Yes, I have. I've been very excited for this book since I heard that it was coming out, because Larfleeze is just a fun character. He really is the definition of a character. So, in this, Larfleeze, it's maintaining what's happened in the back of Threshold.
Okay.
Yes, Threshold. So, all of Larfleeze's things have been stolen. His only possession left to him is his butler. Yes, his butler...
it's a little hard to take a butler.
His butler is his possession.
But you would think that the butler would have seen something.
Oh no, the butler was with him.
Oh, okay. Well,
because if you remember in Threshold, Larfleeze was dragged out of his cave by... he found out that there was another orange lantern, and he got really, really upset, and he left his cave. And when he got back, everything was gone.
Trolls.
But every time he goes somewhere, he takes his butler with him.
I blame trolls. Mountain trolls tend to always go into caves and steal whatever they find.
Or dragons.
Yeah, that too.
Dragons do that too.
Yeah, dragons do that too.
So, in his desolate condition, Larfleeze has come to the conclusion that there's nothing worth living for. So, as he and his butler, the Stargraver, are drifting towards the point of creation at which anything that is made becomes unmade and anything unmade becomes made.
That's not confusing at all.
Not at all. Larfleeze tells us his origin story. And yeah, that's all I'm going to tell you because it's amusing. What happens in the panels is very different from the story that is being told, and it's really cute and funny. the best way... This is another sort of... I don't want to say that it's Deadpool-esque, but it's very tongue-in-cheek, very light.
It's very breaky, the fourth wall, and...
Yeah, you have to be...
Comedy that just kind of goes right at you type
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
It's over the top. You have to be aware and willing to say to yourself, okay, so my protagonist is an anti-hero, and he is ridiculous. But that's what I love the most about Larfleeze. The art was good as per usual. I have no complaints. It's a really, really fun, silly type of story. And I just really love the interaction between Larfleeze and Stargraver. So, go out, check out Larfleeze. He's been waiting a really long time for his own book, and he deserves to keep it.
What's that? What's up, DC? Oh, it's Cass. What are you gonna do? Alright, last and certainly not least this week is the Malevolant Mr. Burns. And in this one, which features 4 stories of the megalomaniacal Scourge of Springfield, Mr. Burns, including Little Monty Millions, Release the Hounds, Mr. Burns to the Rescue, and Mr. Burns Bears It All. Let's hope he doesn't.
That's it. Oh, I need brain bleach for that.
Yeah. Alright. So, as always, this is fun.
The Simpsons ones are a pretty good read.
Oh yeah. Anytime you read a good Simpsons special or whatnot, it's going to be a good laugh or two. And this one has quite a few laughs.
Hell, this one has a good laugh right on the back page.
I know. And, I mean, we were looking at it and just had a pretty good laugh about it.
I chuckled.
Especially what he says. But
we're not going to ruin that.
No,
you have to go find out for yourself.
Yep, and by finding out, we mean go to your local comic shop and buy it. Excellent. But I had a fun time with this. I liked the first story by Gail Simone, where basically young Mr. Burns decides to out a bunch of Bigfoots out of their natural habitat to build a nuclear power plant.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, and he's got an inbred dog that is so inbred that it says Brack instead of Bark. Brack. Brack. So I had some good laughs with that. The second story, Release the Hounds, is basically the origin story of Mr. Burns' hounds.
Oh, neat.
And the first hound that he had.
Oh, that's awesome.
Who was a runt, and Mr. Burns to the Rescue was pretty meh, but I still had a somewhat giggle at it.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Burns Bears It All is the origin story of how Mr. Burns got that gigantic bear in his office.
Oh, cool.
So, if you're looking for a good, in-depth introduction to the character of Mr. Burns, this is pretty much it. And if you're Simpsons fans, you're going to have a good laugh at it.
I've been told that Bongo does a really great job with Simpsons and Futurama.
Yeah.
In keeping them true to how the television feels.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you know somebody...
That's pretty much how these characters are written, and it just works really well.
It's exactly like watching the show. So if you know somebody who loves these shows but is not so much of a reader, check it out, because you might be able to convince them to start.
And it's not a bad way of spending a couple bucks either.
Exactly.
Especially when you need a good laugh. Alright, so that brings us to the close of another exciting episode. Next week we'll have at least 7 or 8 new comics to review.
Lots of new stuff next week.
Yeah, I saw the list and I'm scared already. But, alright, so we will see you next week. Have a good one.